Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about earning trust. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, how would you give confidence to an engineer who isn't meeting expectations, earning their trust that you are on their side and you want to see them improve? Well, I would say I'd go about it pretty much the same way that I earn, as I try to, if I'm trying to earn trust, it sort of just happens really. Uh, I, I would go about it the same way. So usually the thing that happens when you're dealing with an engineer who is, let's say, not meeting expectations, and I'm assuming that this is a fairly new person at this point, because if you have a long-term hire or someone who has been like working there for quite some time and they're not meeting expectations, you might as well fire them, because the longer it takes for you to how do I put this? There is an inherent level of talent someone is going to reach, and you won't necessarily see them. Just like, it might happen, but most of the times it's not gonna happen. If someone works in a place of work, or does a sport or anything like that for years and years and years and years, and they don't get to the sort of levels that you expect them to get to, then, and you've tried to do different things, so you've tried out, your circumstances don't really allow you to change the workflow or give them coaching in a way that will significantly improve the results, then it's most likely not going to happen. It's the sad truth. Not everybody gets to get the gold or things like that in sports, for example, for the same reason. It doesn't matter. Yeah, they can train and they can practice just as hard as the person who wins, but there are even like to the point of genetic differences that will make that practically impossible. And the same thing goes for any skill that you can learn. So if you have someone who's been doing this for a long time and they're not meeting expectations, they're probably never going to. So I would say don't keep them around. It's that simple. They might need to work in a different environment or so forth, or you might need different things from them. Or you can, of course, keep them around, but you can't really expect them to perform at a higher level. But if your goal is to help someone where it's sort of like, because I'm assuming now that what you're looking for is trust, but I also assume that you want to see them improve, because that's sort of mixed into this question. So that's possible, and that's why I was mentioning this thing earlier with the, like, you can earn trust from someone who's just not, they've been working there for years and so forth. But if you want to fix the situation and see an improvement, you sort of have to bet on the right horse to begin with, if that makes sense. And so my suggestion to you is that you do the thing that a fairly solid senior software developer or someone with a bit of experience does with a new hire, or a junior. It doesn't have to be a junior and so forth. But the thing that you're looking to do is to establish a dialogue with the person where they feel as if they can request help from you. So basically what that means is that you have to show them with action that you are there and that you are supportive and that there is a value for them to maintain a relationship with you. That's the key thing. What do I mean by that? Well, to give you a concrete example, one of the quickest ways for a person to grow fairly fond of you when they're in a new workplace is that you realize that this is a new environment to them. They don't know anything. They don't know anybody there. They don't know where things are. They don't know how things work, etc., etc. Which means that they are sort of scrambling to find someone that they can ask questions from. And ideally someone who makes them feel like, yeah, that wasn't so horrible. That's the thing you should be to this person to help them, and that's going to earn you their trust very quickly. In other words, when they don't really know how something works or how to do something and so forth, you go in as the person who can give them that advice. And if you may not know exactly how it works, you put them in contact with the person who does know. In other words, you act as a bit of social lubricant or something like that between this individual and the rest of the company or the rest of like the work environment. Because what happens is that they see that when they ask you a question, you respond and try to be helpful. That's it. That's all you have to do. And ideally, of course, you want to know as much as possible. As I was saying, it's not possible for everybody to know everything, but it's a good thing because that means that the overall feedback loop for them is fairly short. Things move smoother if you know your stuff. But as I said, it can work still, but sometimes you don't have to know, you just have to know who knows, and then that makes them make progress and things like that. Because in the beginning of things and so forth, it's a very useful thing for you to show that. I mean, it's always useful for you to show that sort of support, but it is especially important in the beginning, because this is how you figure out if the issue of not meeting expectations and so forth is this due to the fact that they're just new in the environment. As I was saying with the other case, if they've been there for years and years and years, it's highly likely that there's something going on which you may not be able to change. It might be possible, but I usually see that developers who are not very talented or like doesn't really meet your expectations, like they're never going to, like not after, if they've worked there for over a year, you can basically forget about it. It's not gonna have, well, at least I've never seen it. So that's why this is so useful for you, because now you're sort of you make yourself responsible for their onboarding and for their understanding of their environment that they find themselves in. This also helps you quality assure your onboarding process, making sure that the people who are joining your company have the necessary knowledge and that you have actually taken the time to define that, because that's what you have done, that right? You have written down stuff and made sure that everybody knows where everything is. No? Okay, then you're like literally every other engineering manager practically under the sun. So try to be a better one. So what I want you to take away from this is that the fastest way I have always found to build confidence between yourself, and it doesn't really matter if it's someone who's meeting expectations or not, is to be supportive of them, because usually they have questions, they need things and so forth, which basically means that, especially in the beginning, they don't really have a lot of people in their social network. So if you are supportive of them, helping them with answering questions or pointing them to who can give them answers to their questions, that's a very good initiative for you. That's going to build trust quite a bit. If you have a lot of knowledge, you provide a value to them, and you do so in an area where they might be a little bit sensitive to criticism, which is very common when you're new into something. This should give you a sort of understanding, because you don't have to pull out the you don't meet expectation cards if this is a person who's been working for like a few weeks or a few months or something like that. Make sure that you can sort of assert that it's not a systematic problem within the company that this is happening or something like that. Make sure that you have some way of figuring out where is the issue. If it's the fact that this person is taking, if you've done the onboarding, they have all the information, they know practically how to do most things, and they're not, I don't know, coding fast enough or something like that, then there's not much you can do. Because the reality is that you hired you can be supportive, and you can, like, as I said, try to involve yourself in their work and try to figure out if there is something that you can help them with. Telling them that they're not meeting expectations and things like that is not most likely going to do much, because it's sort of like, as I've said before, guys, people are different. Some developers are really, really quick and really, really great, and some are not. Some are slower. They can get the job done, maybe. Like, that's the important part, but they're not going to be as fast. And some things change over time. In some cases, they're going to get better over time, but you don't know if that's going to be a few weeks or a year or whatever, right? So it really comes down to you sort of to understand, is this the right horse for your company to bet on? And then also be humble in front of the fact that you may hire the next person and you might have an even worse situation, or it might be slightly better. It's very difficult for you to tell, which brings me back to what I was saying. When you are going through this process with them in the beginning of things, make sure that you understand the factors that are in play. Make sure that you can sort of pinpoint where the issue is. Because if you have a shitty overall process, you have no documentation, everything is like a dependency for everybody, and like nobody can really get anything done, that's a problem with your organization, and practically no one is going to change that apart from you or your company or your leadership and so forth. But if you can see that this is an issue with that this individual has a hard time producing the necessary results, well, the only option is to give them time and support. You're going to get the trust by just giving them support, but getting the results takes time, and hopefully they're going to meet your expectations if you give them that support. But if it's, as a person who's been working for years and years, or like someone who's like fairly experienced, it's very unlikely that they're going to change anytime soon. They've most likely reached the peak of how good they are. Maybe not, but it's a little bit tricky for you to bet, your budgets and so forth on the fact that someone's going to magically become a lot better at what they do. Have a great day.